Hi there. In this recent history, there are some words, expressions repeatedly. They are constantly repeated by youngsters, old people, young, but mostly young people, especially in the West. Today, we don't have the East, West, North, South, those cardinal points. We don't have. Everything is westernized. It's a big influence from the West, and we have to follow that. You hear the word such as, for instance, self-esteem. You hear the words, for instance, just other expressions. I hear them all the time. Hear the word, you have to think outside the box. You have to be outside the comfort zone. Those people who are, for instance, the origin of these words or these expressions, at least they have some kind of experience in their life, and they verbalize those words. In our case, Muslims, we just, import. It's trade deficit. I'm saying? We import. When the import is more than the export, we call it trade deficit. When we export more than we import, we call it trade surplus. In our case, it's always a trade deficit. So anyway, you see, in this modern life, people all the time, people in general, we are all. The only thing, people are categorized differently. All of them suffer from this stress circle of the daily life. Stress. If they find anything, people, that can perhaps reduce the tension, the stress tension, they can spend all their money. An example, in the United States, more than 70% of the population, they consult psychologists, psychiatrists for their discomfort, the life they are facing. Now, what is the origin of this? Where is it originated from? You have to touch something a little profound, a little deep. In the old days, speaking about the monotheism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Now, I'm not talking about Judaism, they have another doctrine. Speaking about Christianity. Christians in the old days, they were practicing all the time, even though there is a big miscreance in religion, which is after the ascension of Jesus ﷺ, they fabricated dogma in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. This was fabricated even though this miscreance is dominating people. Still, those old Christians, they were practicing humility. And they say, this is the healthy soul. Today, no. Beginning of the 19th century, psychology, everybody knows its origin, speaking about even though, I'm referring this to Sigmund Freud, even though himself, he spoke about this. Talking about the self-esteem. But I think it is promoted all the time. Self-esteem. When you go to the Muslim world, you don't see this psychology developed a lot. In religion, the culture is more of religious identity. In the Western world, let's just leave religion aside. Speak about psychology, about discovery. Did it help you? If it helped you, follow it. It's very simple. Be sincere with yourself. What is self-esteem? The self-esteem, do not underestimate yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have an idea, talent, faculties. You have to feel proud of this. When you go to the old days of the Muslim, old days, I'm talking about Islam, when Islam was submission, not today. Today is an automatism. This is against the soul. You hear the word they consider, the word riya. Before riya, there is al-ujb. Riya is an external admiration. You're looking for an audience, external audience, you construct it unconsciously in your brain, your mind, in order to please it, in order to wait for it to validate you. So is this dependence without you realizing it. You were born in a society, in an entourage, where there is a reputation about something. You work and you practice, you sacrifice all your talents, faculties, your effort, enthusiastic, whatever, motivation to gain this celebrity status, to be validated. So before it is an external admiration, there is al-ujb, which is an internal admiration. You admire the self. Let's look at it from an emotional perspective, or I should say standpoint. How do they... The emotions in their primordial state, the emotions, they have a tendency to navigate beyond time and space and to seek splendor, immensity. They seek the absolute. You want to call this God, you want to call this whatever the name you want to give. They are seeking the absolute. When we say absolute, that's, something doesn't have a value. But the person, what he's doing, the person is creating, first of all, it's an admiring the self, admiring the self. Those emotions will no longer have this possibility or tendency to navigate. And then from the self to the external audience, you please an external audience. And then you feel happy. And then you call this self-esteem. I'm talking about both worlds. In the Muslim world, no. If you get this kind of riya, ujb, what do? Are you gonna, you get rid of it or something? What are you gonna do? It's a difference. You have everything handy. You have everything in your possession. But there is this introspection to give credit to the Creator. So it is as if you give it back. The talents, faculties, all this kind of position that the Western world go or outside to please with it, to explode. The Muslim, no. You internalize it, it's gonna cause an implosion instead of an explosion, in a good way, and I don't mean it a bad way. Explode, that's it. Sparks are externalized. Internalized, no, they're gonna develop something more. So this is the difference between the two worlds. For somebody who is born, raised in a Western world, we're speaking about the self-esteem. What is the self-esteem doing? You have a motive. Because, therefore, which implies you have a cause why you feel happy. It's because of self-esteem. Self-esteem, what does it do? It absorbs from the self. External admiration, what does it do? It absorbs from the outside audience. In contrast, make sure all your emotions are fed by a spectator that you generate voluntarily, intentionally by yourself. Someone you cannot avoid from having one of these three audiences. The self admiring the self, that's a disaster. Some people, they try to free themselves from outside. They do things, I don't care. I don't want someone to tell me how to dress, what to do. That's good. But they fall in the internal audience, which is worse. They escape from the outside idolatry. They fall in the inside idolatry. Was one of the big thinkers, Muslim, asked his teacher, he said, which one is dangerous? Is it al-hujb, he said, the self-admiration, or الرياء, outside admiration. He said, you have the ferocity of an animal that is inside your house or is outside your house. Which one is dangerous, is more dangerous? Of course, the one that is inside you, inside your house. This is العجب, as we call it. Now, I repeat again, the self absorbing from the self. Outside audience, the self absorbing from outside. How's that? When you perform any action, you have always this tendency that where is he, where is she, where are they, to validate me. Okay, I have to start by the me validating the me, and then them. Okay, so what does it do? Your audience have space. Your audience has a time. Your audience has the how. You have these three metaphors. You're speaking about when, where, and how. All of these, if they come from an audience creature like you, the where, they centralize you. The when, they punctualize you. And the how, they fashion you in the way you should behave. Okay, now, what does it do emotionally? You know, in a subcortical region of the brain, you have the hypothalamus. You know, the feelings. When you feel good, you feel bad, you feel stressed, you feel melancholy, whatever. They are all chemically induced. In other words, the hypothalamus is like a small motor engine distributing these glands, the chemically induced agents through the body, through the whole stream, through the blood. You feel great sometimes. You know, for someone he gets like adapted and gets used to, you know, I have a lot of people are admiring me if I'm like this. During the absence of this audience, you will suffer stress. It is as if you're saying the nicotine. Nicotine, the first time you smoke a cigarette, you feel suffocated, you will have headache, migraine headache, and you will throw up for a normal person. Then you get used to it, and then you smoke, you feel fine, you are okay. If you don't smoke, you will have a headache. It's the contrary. If you don't smoke, if you don't have coffee, your body gets used to this. You get my point? Today, this self-esteem that is dependent on the existence of this audience, it helps you, it gives you, you find the swinging of the emotions, extreme happiness and extreme sadness, when in fact, you know how you develop the balancing this stress is by avoiding going extremely towards, you know, the happiness. That's itself, if you go to extreme happiness, that's itself will shift you to the extreme sadness. So avoid that force that you abstain, the force of abstention, that's itself will develop the real force in your hypothalamus. As I said, if you feel great, you feel good, I feel good, you know, everybody loves me. And, you know, yeah, if it is like this, the brain itself and the hypothalamus starts distributing, ejecting dopamine, serotonin, GABA, all of these that make you feel happy, but they have a cause, and the cause is the existence of this outside audience. What the religion tells you? The religion tells you to do something unconditionally, to do something for God's sake. You get my point? Not conditionally. Conditionally, you are creating a segment within your neurons. You walk there. You know, what is the stress? Is a lack or imbalance of serotonin. This is what they discovered there a lot. In the brain and in the body. Is a lack imbalance. or there is an interruption of the distribution of serotonin towards the whole body. That's what will cause you stress. Stress is different. Then here, what is the solution? Initially, primordially speaking, human being, the brain, the hypothalamus, produce these chemically induced agents by itself. Well, God is asking you to do certain things. Meaning, you are not depending on a centralized audience. This audience, this is the absolute. Instead of being centralized, you become universal. Instead of being punctualized by these audience, you're going to become eternal. This is how the flow of the emotions, they're not going to be centralized as it is the case with a creature, audience from creature. Today you find the person, sometimes he or she is characterized by a reputation and an audience all his life. He ignores that on a preconscious level. You know the word preconsciously, he doesn't know that is coming from his culture, that is coming from his religion, that is coming from all this fabricated dogma. He is characterized without knowing that, without realizing it. And then if he doesn't find this kind of and it is always comparing to others. Self-esteem is always creating, another competitor. I am better than him. It's always like this. Now, getting back, we're going to go to touch something a little bit, perhaps submerge a little bit to the, a little bit deeper. We have in our life, we have what we call the innate, and we have what we call the acquired. The innate, we were born with it. It's a part of our native life, existence. According to the West, the way they speak about innate, they mean all these kind of whatever, instinct. No, we don't refer to this in Islam. What we mean by the innate is every newborn is born with the intuition. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said every newborn is born with the intuition. He didn't say Muslim. Okay, he said with the intuition. What does it mean, intuition? If you come to a classroom, you sit, you have a teacher there, he's going to teach. What is the lesson? Is how to study transparency. I beg your pardon. You have to study, today we're going to study the transparency. Well, the transparency is not a color, so what are you going to study? I don't understand. Why do you have to disturb us to come to a classroom to study? Every color is known by its reference. That's true. Does the transparency have a color? No, it doesn't. Its color, or you can say the water, the color of the water is from the container, especially during its state of evaporation. It doesn't have even a form, nothing. Its form, its color are from the container. So the Prophet ﷺ say the intuition. If the intuition is nothingness, so why we have to know or to study it, whatever? Can you write nothing on the board like I have it here behind me? Write nothing, because you are subject to colors. The color gives you a reference, and it's stagnation, it's static. That's why in religion you were told to avoid statues, idolatry. The reflection is going to go back to your emotion. They will be stagnant, static, the same thing the statue in itself is. Islam, they prohibit that. It was prohibited on all the monotheism. The only thing is Jews are a little distant from this, but the Christians are a lot. And what is this? This is the miscreance of religion that's pushing them constantly looking for stagnation in life through those idolatries. Now, as I said, the The innate is the intuition. What is the intuition? You believe in one God. Look, you say you believe in one God, the angels, the books, the 4 books, the prophets, the day of judgment, and destiny. Everything is from God. So, what you hear here, these 6 pillars, they are all ungraspable. You cannot even try to give a undefinable, if it's like they cannot define them. Starting from the Creator, all the way to everything is in a constant state of metamorphism. That's how your emotions are. If a person now the person is, the Creator did not ask you to find. He asked you to seek the truth. Person, because of his impatience, he wants to withdraw himself from the mystery to outside world to claim ownership, to claim credit, when in fact, if he kept it, the credit to God, he will gain more power. We have a center of gravity. What is a center of gravity of anything? A center of gravity is the vertical line that is coming, that's centralizing an object. In human being, what is his center of gravity? When I'm standing, center of gravity. This is the physical world. I'm talking about a psychic world. The reason why a person feels like he is being pushed off, left off, isolated, I don't have place in society, it's kind of painful. But when the person feels oblivious, this is the feeling of every human being. But where the problem resides is how to cure, how to deal with it. By going, creating, constructing audiences that you become dependent, or by eliminating those audiences. You, as a human being, all of us today, we behave, we act, we react based on the acquired. It's a position at work. We don't act and behave and react based on the innate, on the faith. What we develop an extrinsic, something extrinsic, not intrinsic. An extrinsic, it's flow with the secretion. This is where resides the stress. I know it's a little deep. Look, when we go to Jesus Christ, alayhi salam, we know that, he resurrected the dead people. The actions that we are performing during our daily life, actions, transactions, they were not meant for the action. They were meant for what is resulted inside our body, within us. I'm going to give a small example. I am holding a palm tree. I want to plant a palm tree. Where does this action take place? It takes place here in this external world. Is that all? Yes. I disagree with you. It took place in the external world and in my physical world because my muscles have, all of them participated, speaking not all, I say the biceps, deltoid, pectoral, quadriceps in my legs, etc. They participated in this action. So the action, you can almost say that the palm tree is in my biceps. Is that all? Yes. I disagree with you. Was there an emotion? Was there an intention, I should say? An intention that preceded the action? Did I have an intention that precedes the action to plant the tree? A memory trace? Yes, of course. So, in our conclusion, sub-conclusion, we say it's in the objective world, and then no, a physical world. No, it's in a psychic world. Now here where reside the big question mark. You did something in action, you did it for such an audience, you did it to gain a celebrity status, you did it for, it was fed by creature. There was an emotion, look at it as an air bubble in your conscience, in your neurons, look at it there. You see it, it flows, is always waiting for that same audience that was fed by to feel happy. Here you have the hypothalamus is functioning. If it doesn't find, for some reason, the diminution of the constituents of the ego or the absence of the, they're gonna flow with melancholy. The hypothalamus will not gonna give you as before. Now, we spoke about Jesus' mission. Jesus' mission asks you to have sort of like a laser that is penetrating you going to the world. That is his mission. He didn't do an action like this. He had it with the presence of mind, with the complete effacement of the self. The self did not, there was no conscience of Jesus. It was the conscience at the time of the action. It's not you. And then it's you and then it's not you. وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. You understand? It's for God's sake. Excuse me. That's me, but it's not me. It's him. Here, what you develop, you don't develop an extrinsic emotion. You will develop an intrinsic emotion. It will be unseen in your emotions, in your brain. It's going to disappear. Now, what's the difference between a person who is storing extrinsic emotions and someone who is storing intrinsic emotions? It's the same. They're inside him. Be careful. Internal, extrinsic. You're going to say this is a contradiction. No, it's not a contradiction. It's not part of you. Like the cyst, the kyst. You know the cyst? What is the cyst? It's inside. It seems like it's a part of the body. It's not. No. The one who developed an emotion for the sign, for the sake of God, it becomes intrinsic, a part of the innate. This person, when he behaves, he is the generous, he is the compassionate, he is the affectionate, he is the responsible, he is the punctual, he is the gallant. The other one, no. He is storing the emotions. He transports an emotion of generosity, but he's not generous. He's transporting an emotion of affection, but he's not affectionate, and keep going. What's the difference? The former one is spontaneous. This is where reside the harmony. The second one, he makes recourse, an option to a uniform, required. Anyway, by the way, thank you for sharing, for listening. I hope to see you soon. Pleasant day. It's always a pleasure to see, to speak, to share with a gentle woman and a gentleman of your caliber.